I want to welcome you to the Charly Crawford podcast. Let's ride.
Walter, man, I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on. I've been dreaming about this, and this is my first one in person on video. So I'm excited that you've accepted to come on. So, man, I appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
It's always hard when the guy's got to travel that far, to come to a
a mile, 1 mile I drove over. I have an old car that I drive around town. I drove it over today.
Yeah, as the eagle would fly, it would not take long.
No.
Walt, there's so many things that I love to be able to go down and visit with you about. And one of the things that I admire so much is your ability to hold Father Time under your boot heel for as long as you have. It's been amazing to watch it. It inspires so many of us that the clock's not done until the clock's done. And you don't accept anything else other than just keep grinding. Last year brought a tear to my eye to watch you at the BFI still just holding on your own with them young Thundercats.
Well, thanks.
And I those are some things that I think truly defines you because you don't stop.
There was a guy, I didn't know, but when I got back, he said, "Can you believe you won 5th at the BFI?" I said, "Yeah." I wouldn't enter if I didn't believe I could win. Did I think I was going to win first? No, but I don't think anyone does. Did I think I had a chance? Yeah, if I didn't think I had a chance, I wouldn't have won. But yeah, it was great. It was a great win, and that's a great rope, and it has been forever.
Well, I think the fact that you've learned there's some things that there's some ability that you have to know how to maintain. Like you've learned that through your career. What are some of those things that have helped keep your longevity this long? How old are
70.
you now? 70.
Yeah, I know. Well, first of all, I think it has to do with your family. Like my dad's sister, one of them is still alive. One of them just died at 102, and the other one died at like 98. They live forever. I think they just get tired of living and just want to leave. It's incredible how long my family lives. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I would like to say, boy, my diet and exercise program has been amazing. And there's been parts of my life where it has been, but there's been parts where it's been really bad, Yeah. But I'm never sick. There's nothing ever hardly wrong with me, So I think that it has to do with your makeup, your DNA, and then too, I came from a working class background. My dad was a horse shoer. My mother cleaned houses, and they worked every day. We got up at 5:30 every morning and left the house at 6:15 or 6:45, and then shot horses, and then came back and went roping one day a week. So they were hardworking people, and so I applied that work ethic to roping. So and I still do. I still think I outwork most guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of structure behind that.
Yeah,
and then a lot of times too, when you learn how to shoe horses, you learn how to find certain things that if you're tough enough to do that, then a lot of other things it kind of helps prepare you for that. What are some things you feel like that keeps you sharp? So like, say some of the other seasoned ropers, that's one of the questions I'll get a lot of times too, is how do you stay sharp? How do you stay, to where when you get there, like things are just clicking?
I think living in Stephenville it's incredible. These are the best guys in the world, and if you live in Arizona, if you live wherever you live, and that's offensive, come to Stephenville and they'll show you that this is the toughest place in the world. So I think that's what happens. I think when one guy stumbles onto something or does a little bit of something, I think one of the things that ropers do wrong, young ropers do wrong, is I'm going to heel like this guy or I'm going to heel like that guy. And that's a mistake. You got to a certain level because you heel like you do. Now, if you want to add just a little bit of something from one guy that you like, like I loved Trey Yates' swing speed. He is swinging that rope 100 miles an hour going down arena, and he is after him, and I think that's great. And I think as you get older, you swing slow, and it's just, there's not an advantage to that. If you ever feel yourself having to try to catch up to one through the turn, you're beat. You got to have it on, still out of speed, and then you just drop down on them when they turn it, bang, get them. So I think that's one of the things that's helped me a lot is living here.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
If you want to be with the assassins, man, you got to come and see. And there's so much sharpness to where I think competition also,
right.
Being able to compete consistently, but then seeing those guys that are hitting that mark. I remember just watching Jake Barnes' intensity.
Yeah.
To me that related. That was a guy that he would have fought battles if he was born decades earlier. You know,
he was incredible.
That guy was a warrior.
And there were some guys with me that seemed to do that. We were up one year over the 4th of July, the year that him and I made the finals. And he wrote poor over the 4th of July. He was struggling, didn't write very well. And he lived in Phoenix at the time. And man, we were like maybe 2 days without hardly any sleep. I mean, an hour. You know how it is. I mean, you just sleep in the back of the truck or in the seat, just dying. And we got to his house, and so he situated. We were going to get to sleep for like 4 hours before we had to go to Prescott, and so he told everybody where the beds were and where we could sleep. He roped. There was people with me. He headed the dummy for 4 hours while we all slept, and then we got up and went to Prescott. And I think him and I placed in the day money. I mean, stories about him are, sometimes they make them up. I seen him do it.
Well, I think when you get around the guys that are the best in the world, that's when you see a certain warrior that pops out of almost all of them in some way. It's different than when you're open for fun.
Right.
There's a different level when you're seeing guys that are doing it to eat.
Right.
They're hungry.
Yeah.
And just being able, for me, like, it's so much fun to watch it.
Right.
You're seeing these guys, what they're doing, where they've shaved those inches off here and there, where they started that swing here and there. The horses now, they're starting to
unbelievable to
upgrade as well. And it, as a fan, it's fun to watch those guys at that level.
Yeah, I mean, heel horses now, if a horse can really run, I won a lot on a horse we called Dudley. I won Cheyenne on him, and won the championship on him, and won Salinas on him. That horse could fly. He could run so fast. And I mean, that's you watch guys that are healing great now. Their horses can run, and you're down the arena, and you're just waiting for them to turn and just bang.
Yeah, one of the things that was fun when I was a young kid was watching the intensity of Jake, but then seeing the focus of Clay Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, guy was stealth.
Yeah.
What I admired so much about your career was your ability to continue to maintain the things that you've learned. You learned how to be successful in the Western industry and also know how the business worked. It's a hard line to learn.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bloody noses, I'm sure, along the way with that as well. But your story is it's movie material. Like I love just the stories you have, the things that you've done, because you kind of broke a mold where it didn't have to just always rope. There was other things out there, and you learned how to capitalize on so many things.
A lot of times sports guys get a bad rap. Tennis players get a bad rap about going from the airport to the hotel to the Coliseum, airport, home. They don't ever see these beautiful places that they go in because you're not educated. I was a good student. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I got good grades. I was an A student when I was a junior in high school, and I did well. I had planned on going to college, but when I was a senior, and this 1973, so this is a long time ago, the old saying, "Where you been all my life?" Well, the first 30 years I wasn't born. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I won $30,000 when I was 17 years old. That was more money than my parents made together or any teacher that I had. So I couldn't justify going to college. I should have went. I mean, I should have put everything back for a couple of years just because it would have let me mature. I mean, I'm 17 years old and I go out into the world. I didn't know how credit cards work. I didn't know how to balance my checkbook. I didn't know any of that stuff. And then all of a sudden I've got all this money that I'm winning and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to invest it. So of course young guys lose it because you're not educated in that way. So it would be really good. It would be great if someone would go to high school seniors and say, let me explain to you how credit cards work. They're going to give you a credit card and they're going to put $1,000 limit on it. And if you pay that off, they're going to move it up to $2,000. And if you pay that off, they're going to move it up to $5,000 because they're trying to get you hooked. And then when they get you hooked, it's 27% interest and you can't pay it back. I mean, because I got mine up to $50,000 and I bragged to people about it because I kept paying it off. Finally, they got me stuck. And now you are stuck because now you're $30,000 into them at 25%. And you never get out. All you do is make the payment, make the minimum, make the interest payment. And that's why young guys get in trouble. So I was lucky enough to meet great people along the way that give me great advice.
This episode is brought to you by BC Insurance of Texas. an agency that's built on family values and deep roots in agriculture. Brandon and his team of agents don't just insure the farm and ranch lifestyle, they live it. That firsthand experience is what drives BC Insurance to do things differently. They don't believe in simply selling policies. Instead, they take the time to build insurance programs that eliminate gaps in coverage and truly protect the land, livestock, equine operations, and assets you've worked a lifetime to build. As an independent agency, BC Insurance partners with top-rated carriers so they can tailor coverage to fit your operation, not force you into a one-size-fits-all plan. Their focus is simple: relationships first, protection second, and peace of mind always. If you're looking for insurance from people who understand your world, visit bcinsurancetx.com and connect with BC Insurance today.
So you got your start in California?
Yep, French Camp, California is where I come from. I was born in Stockton, raised in French Camp. My dad was a horseshoer. My mother cleaned other people's houses, and just working people.
And then Dale Woodard was your brother?
My brother. I got a brother that's 10 years older than I am. My brother roped good. My brother was a great horse trainer and an animal trainer, was a contract tax guy, was a bullfighter for a long time, which I really thought was cool when I was a kid. My brother was a bullfighter, and after he got older, he became a clown, and he trained a buffalo, broke a buffalo with a saddle and loped him around both ways, taught him his leads. Try that. Get you a buffalo. Get him to take his leads. He could train all kinds of different animals. Extraordinary animal trainer, but it bothered me that he was no longer a bullfighter. I didn't like my brother being a clown. And I told him, I said, I don't, how come you're not a bullfighter? He said, and he used to run track, and he was a tough guy, wrestled and all kinds of things. And he said, because I used to, when a bull got really close, I had a gear that I could shift into and get away. He said, now when I walk through the gate, I'm in that gear. There's no more gears. So
another gears.
No, there's not another gear. So anyway, it was still made me proud that he could do all these different things and make a living in the rodeo business, because that's something, as you know, that not very many people have been able to do.
100%.
Yeah.
Did your parents rope?
My dad roped. My dad was I met a guy the other day I used to say that the reason that people are successful is because you have a great work ethic and you have a great attitude. And that's true. Those two things are true. And then the third thing is you got to have some luck. You got to be in the right place at the right time. I met a guy the other day. A guy came for lessons, and he has 200 trucks, 200 big trucks. They haul liquid asphalt. They haul, big machines all around the country. They are very successful. And I asked him, I said, how'd you get started? He said, I was a truck driver, and he said they were hauling, there was a demand for truck drivers, and I didn't want to be a truck driver all my life, but he said, I wanted to own a truck. So he said, I bought a dump truck. I bought an old used dump truck, and I borrowed the down payment from 3 different people, and I hauled rock and stuff during the day, and then he found a job that he could haul at night. So he was, same old deal. He was starting to work at, 6:30 in the morning, and then he would stop at 10 o'clock at night, have his supper, go to bed, get up, do it again. And he said, and I was lucky. And I said, it sounded like he wasn't lucky. It sounded like he worked hard. And he said, no. If that truck would have broke down, it would have crippled me. But he said that old truck never broke down because he said if it would have broke down, I didn't have any money to fix it, but it didn't. And that's what happened to me. So many things. I met the right person at the right time. And my dad was just a weekend guy. He was a weekend roper, and no one could rope. But luckily, I was raised 30 miles from Leo Camarillo. He was the greatest roper that had ever lived at that time. So I got to see what it looked like. I came home, I told my dad, I said, he swings it over there when he heels. And he said, why? And I said, I don't know, but I'm going to do that. He said, you have any idea why? What helped? I said, no, I don't. And I said, he doesn't seem very friendly. So I said, I'm just going with that. I'm going to swing it over there when I swing it. If I'd have been born now remember, when you say that nowadays, people go, oh, there was no internet. There was no computer. There was no roping schools. There was no DVDs. There was nothing. And they had one rodeo on television one time a year, and that was the last go-round of the NFR, brought to you by Heston. That was the only time there was any rodeo on television.
You had to travel to go see it.
Yeah.
It was not the luxury of being able to watch everything that unfolds in your couch in your house.
Right. No. So I would just follow him around. I would go. My dad would find out where he was going to compete, and then we would go there. And it was like sacrificing, a Christian to a lion. Just no. I mean, we just get annihilated by him and his brother and Reg and HP and Larry Goss and all those guys would just kill you. But my dad said, we gotta watch him. We gotta, and he unloaded his horse one time and sawdust came out. And honestly, I thought his horse had been fighting the trailer and had knocked, wood off the side.
Thought all the plywood fell out.
Right, that's what I thought. I thought, wow. Yeah, I mean, that was how green we all were. But we got to watch him. And then wow, there's shavings in there. And then I followed him around. I would just ask him questions and follow him around. And he would tell me stuff. I mean, reluctantly, but he would.
Because it was such a different time back then. So men were very, it was tough times. So it was tough men.
Yes.
And then that's what I heard so much. And just a little bit I was around Leo was there's three sides of him. There was the intimidation competition guy. There was the business guy. And then if you were on his team and he was on your team, he kind of let you in a little bit. But it also seemed like too there was so much that was hard to explain because you guys did it one steer at a time.
Yeah.
There was one steer at a time to where you started figuring out, but to be able to explain it was very hard for a lot of the guys that once they figured it out. And then probably a little bit too, and how much of it to where if you had the edge, did you really want to give some of that away as well? It seemed like there was some of that era.
Yeah, these guys now are nice. These are nice guys, really nice. And maybe, I mean, they're talented. There's more money. They're better educated. Back then, them guys were ornery. They were mean. But I've heard you talk about your dad, and I think being raised by the generation that we were raised by, Leo Camarillo could not intimidate me. I mean, he said something hateful one time, and I said, "You think you're going to intimidate me? I was raised by Sheldon Woodard. You take your best shot, right? You think you're going to hurt my feelings, and run me off? I'm not. I'm here. You the only guy that knows how to do this. So I've got to follow you around and ask you questions."
That era was you had to be raised with such tough skin.
Yes.
I remember someone the other day, they were like, man, if you'd have take Leo into this day, I mean, there'd be a lot of people probably start crying.
Right.
Because you said it's nice and it's good to where it's at.
Right.
But understanding that back then it was a different time. And for me, it's kind of enjoyable because they're battling like they were warriors.
Right.
Because there was a war to be able to keep putting gas in the fuel tank.
Yeah, there wasn't very much money, so you had. We went to the slack somewhere, and I got along with Gerald. Gerald's still alive. I got along with Gerald. Gerald always was nice to me, but we went to the slack somewhere, and Gerald had said something hateful to me in the morning during the slack, and I didn't like it. It bothered me. I didn't like it, and I was traveling with Leo at the time. I was going with him. I don't know why. I was in his car, but he had a Lincoln Continental. So we get somewhere that night, and we went to a perf in the day, and then perf at night, and then slack after somewhere. So anyway, that night after we got done, I told him, I said, your brother, he's a butt. And he said, I agree. He said, but why do you say that? So I told him what Gerald had said to me that morning. And he said, you spent all day long thinking about what Gerald said to you this morning? He said, you need to think about roping because he said, you don't do that very well. And he said, I don't think you're cut out for this. If you spend all day long thinking about what my brother said to me, and that was so minor, all day long, he said, you thought about that? I said, that's ridiculous. That's the opposite of what I thought he was going to say. I thought he was going to chime in and agree with me about what Gerald had said. And what he said was probably nothing, but it really had offended me. Anyway, that's the way, and that, I mean, your feelings
thickened up after that.
Well, your feelings can be hurt if you want to, but isn't that right? That is right. Yeah, he said football players send hate mail to one another, right? He said, this is professional sports. Toughen up.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and he helped me a lot like that. So,
when you started going and your dad was hauling you around, What was it when you started feeling like, okay, I'm doing this for fun, I'm getting pretty good at it? When was it starting to get to where, okay, I'm gonna go at these guys?
Right. Okay, nothing made sense. No, everyone learns different, right? I mean, that we all learn a different way. I want to know why. People say that, but I mean, that's a swing. That's backwards, but that's a swing. That's a swing, right? That's a swing. That's a swing. That's a swing. That's a swing. I want to know how to swing it. How do you make this thing go around your body? So no one could explain it to me. So I started breaking it down. If something didn't make sense, then I wouldn't do it. For instance, when I was a kid, if you ever missed a steer, you dropped your elbow. I dropped my elbow. And I asked my dad, I said, where'd I drop it to? He said, it was down. I said, how low? He said, it was low. I said, where's it supposed to be? He said, up. I said, how high? He said, high. I mean, what in the world would that have to do with anything that I'm doing? Why wouldn't you tell me what to do with my hand, and then wouldn't my elbow be in the right spot? Don't talk about the middle of my arm. Or if I ever split the horns, I didn't follow through. I said, Dad, if I let go of my rope when the tip of the rope is going that way, and I mean really follow through, it still doesn't go on. He said, well, I'll get back to you on that. So I stopped doing all that stuff. When you healed, you couldn't lean. Why not? Because your horse will stop. I said, the next time your horse starts bucking, lean over. I bet you he won't stop. Boy, you almost had you bucked off, but you leaned over right at the last second, and he shut it all down. Trick riders lean over. Their horses don't stop. So I stopped doing anything that didn't make sense, anything that wasn't logical. And so I started building. Like, I'll debate healing with anyone in the world. Anyone. I'll talk. We can talk all you want to. And I'll, and this is, they told me as a kid to tie my sawhorse up off the ground. I said, I can't get in time. So when I throw, the steer's feet are not off the ground. They're not off the ground when I throw. Why would I do that? And I said, as a matter of fact, you should let yours down too, because you can't get in time either. You can't even play the inside leg game, and neither could I. So why in the world would we try to talk about it? First of all, it doesn't work that way. It works front to back. It doesn't work right to left. So anyway, once I realized that I understood my trade, I understood roping and healing, and I knew why I missed, and I didn't have to go to some guy on the fence that roped worse than I did and say, did you see me? Because at that time, there wasn't a video camera. My mother had a camera, and she would get so excited that she would jump up and down. You couldn't see, right? And then it was blurry, and then you would set the projector up in the living room, and it would burn a hole in the film, and it would cut it in half. I mean, it was a different time, right? Yeah. Nobody had a fancy phone, and you could video your run and then look at it as soon as you rope, and it wasn't like that, So once I got to where I understood, then they had the Oakdale 10 steer. Did you ever go to the Oakdale 10 steer?
I did not.
It was the Bobfest Invitational before they had the Bobfest Invitational. It was the biggest event in the United States, in the world. It was the
I just remember event. It was a prestigious, because you always heard about the Oakdale 10 steer.
Yep, go once, big steers, no horn wraps. They didn't put horn wraps on the steers.
And then it came from the same side?
Yep, they were giants. Yeah,
which side?
The right side. The right side. Heel and barrier, head and barrier. Both guys had a barrier. It was a wonderful event. But when I was 17, I was second high team back, and I missed the last one. But I threw up, and literally, I'm not kidding you. I actually threw up before I roped the last year. And people said, man, you seem like you was nervous. I said, well, I've never got that far before. But now I know what it smells like. And I know what it was like. And I know and I said, if I ever get back there again, or the next time I do get back there again, I'll be more prepared. I'll know what it's like. So
what adjustments that day going forward were you starting to make?
Because I believe in my mechanics, and I started thinking about the prize instead of the mechanics.
Lost the focus.
Yes, I know how to heal.
Yep.
If I have a saying on my wall, and it says, feathers and dust are affected by laws, not luck. So the mechanics, there's fundamentals that affect the outcome, right? I didn't do any of the fundamentals. I just thought about the prize. And I got it, what if I miss? What if I miss? And sure enough, I did, right? Okay, but so the next time I got in that position, I thought about, and also it was a 10 steer average. I had already caught 9 by thinking the way that I was thinking. So why won't that, and this is not rah-rah stuff, why won't that work one more time, right?
100%.
Yes. If I do the same thing I've been doing one more time, it will work. So that's what I did. And I think when I was 19, I won second. Maybe I was 18. Or I won it. And for some reason, it got in my head that if I could beat these guys, it was inner one time, and if I could beat them on this kind of playing field, I can beat them once. Why can't I beat them? Right? And then once that got in my head, then I decided that I could. And well, you can't beat Leo Camarillo. Well, he's only one guy. Second's not bad, right? So that's what I decided. I mean,
I think there's so much to that, because that's the being able to control those emotions and nerves, and that's where so many guys will talk and ask about the mental game.
right.
And I think there's so much strength to it for sure. But man, if your mechanics are bad and your swing's going that way and you're trying to throw that way,
100%.
then when you catch, it's kind of almost luck. And if you miss, it's just kind of your consistency is going to be flawed,
Right.
because of there's a flaw in your technique.
Yes.
When the technique is correct and you're missing the 10th one, okay, now let's start shaving a little, or go ahead and get into that mental game, because there's some focus that was lost.
Yeah.
And that's where so many guys will ask, because everyone's built differently. Everyone thinks differently. You know, he was talking about Oak Berry. He was talking about, like, he said, man, there was times I would not do good in the short round. And he said a lot of it came back to when he would rope. And he would rope the dummy 10 times in a row and he'd miss the 10th one.
Right.
Or he'd do 50 in a row and he'd miss the 49th or 50th one.
Sure.
He could feel it building
Right.
that shortness of breath, like someone stepping on you. And he said he said every time you'd miss and he'd start back over again, first one he'd catch.
Right.
And when he said he would do, and where his ability to win that 10th round, he said a lot was because of, I almost made it up in my mind that I missed that one.
Yeah.
And this is my redo.
That's a weird way.
It's a weird way.
Right. But it's
But he
good,
said
like
it took the pressure off where he could go do what he
Right.
knew how to go do.
Right.
It was like, okay, I'm going to see this steer, but I'm going to pretend I broke out. I'm going to see this steer and pretend that I was out late and then I didn't get him. He said, now I'm going to pretend that I get to do it over again. Like
Right.
that first one back to where he's like, that was how he figured out. That's how I'm going to be able to do it. Like I know how to do it. But everyone's different.
I can walk up and down. People talk about, you got to have a positive mental attitude. I can walk up and down in front of the buck and shoots all day long and tell myself I'm the greatest bull rider in the world, when in fact I don't know how to ride a bull. I don't know even how to do it. I have such belief in my mechanics. I believe that if I do those steps, I will catch. Right? You know, I mean, Ricky Green was my nephew, and we were in Arizona one time, and I think he was probably 17. I was 19 or 18. And we were opening a dummy. He was heading the dummy. And I told him, I said, I can head that dummy. I said, I'll bet you $5 that I can head that dummy 100 times in a row. He said, I bet you $5 you can't head it 500 times in a row. And I said, okay, I'll bet you. So give you an idea how much my time was worth at one time in my life. I got a penny. I got 1 penny for every time I headed the dummy. Right? But I roped it 500 times in a row by doing the same thing every time. I walk up there, I'd push my rope outside the right horn, 1 piece under, 1 piece over, outside my elbow, and all the way across. Whack. 500 times in a row. I got to fight. He said, he stayed with me till like, I think 380. And he said, hey, I'm going to go to bed. Keep track. I said, see you tomorrow. But if you start thinking, I'm at 490. No, I didn't. I thought of the same steps every single time. So it will work. It will go on.
That's what I thought you learned how to do, because I think of so many articles in the Super Looper, correct, where we
Yes.
could kind of keep up with what you were focused on,
Right.
what you were thinking.
Right.
That helps so many people, because there's a belief system that I thought your mental ability was so strong and your ability to believe in what you were doing, but I'd been out there rodeoing. A lot of guys didn't have that same mentality. Right. What was it that you learned to be able to kind of break that mold? Because I'd seen so many, oh, golly, gee, shucks, it just went on. I just got lucky.
Right.
There was a lot of guys, well, probably couldn't do that again. And, there was so much, and one of the things that's respectable about the Western industry is the humbleness to it, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
But then there's guys that, like you say, the arrogant guys, like, I'm going to blah, 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 which is great, too. That works for them. But you found how to be confident.
Yeah.
Like, how did you break that mold back then?
this is an example, but I met a guy one time. He introduced himself as he said, he said, I'm the guy that missed the steer at the Perry de Loretto for $100,000. I missed the last one for $100,000. I said, I don't know you, but I would never say that again in my life, ever.
Wouldn't lead with that.
I would never speak of it again. What are you doing? You know what I mean? And so I don't know. I mean, whether it came from my mom or my dad or my family or whatever, but I mean, I literally am a glass half full guy. That's how I've always thought.
You've always
about
been
it.
that way.
I have. I don't think negatively. You know, I mean, different things happen to you in your life. I had a roping school a long time ago. I was a young guy in Sioux Center, Iowa. That's you don't know where that is, but it's a small place. And there was a young, handsome guy there, kid, probably 21, 22 years old. And he told me he was going to get married. And he invited me to his wedding. I didn't know him, and that was very nice that he did. So anyway, I get invited. I said, I can't come. Anyway, take off. So I have a school, I'm at home, and phone rings, and it's in late July, mid-July. And they said, hey, do you remember this? I think his name was Todd Mao, or maybe Scott Mao. I think Todd. And he said, do you remember him? And I said, yeah, I do remember him. They said, well, he got married. They went to a 4th of July celebration. They were coming home from the party, and his wife was driving. And, there's no stop signs out there. A lot of times, all those dirt roads. Anyway, they come over to Rodeo. 2 cars just happen to be at the intersection. They hit him. Car flips over, throws him out. And he's at the Craig Institute in Denver, Colorado, and wanted to know if you'd go visit him. He's not, he's kind of in a bad spot. So I said, sure. So I was in that area. Something's going on. So I go, have you ever been to the Craig Institute? Do you know what it is? I didn't know what it is either. So anyway, I get there. I go in there. They tell me where his room is. And when I go down the hall, I remember seeing an automobile. There was a part of a car in one of the rooms. And I thought, and like an auditorium. I thought, well, that was odd. Anyway, I get down there. The Craig Institute is for paraplegics and quadriplegics. Car hits him, throws him out of the deal, breaks his neck, and he's paralyzed. He's a quadriplegic. And when I walked in the door, he's got a little cut on one of his hands, and he's just laying there. Same kid that I remember, completely healthy, normal, handsome guy, can't move, cannot move. So anyway, I talked to him, I visit with him a little bit. And what the Craig Institute does is prepares you for the rest of your life. You are not going to get better. That's it. Anyway, I left that day, and I thought to myself, and I remember this thinking, if I told that guy all of my problems, I laid them out, everything I got going wrong in my life. And when I got it all done, I said, do you want to trade? I mean, he would say, absolutely, man. Just let me walk again. Let me do any of the stuff that I could do before. And I thought, man, I'm letting little things, and that really affected me. And that guy lived a long time. He lived a life. He stayed married. Later on, they got a divorce. But I mean, he had his own van and could answer. And anyway, it was. But
one of those that kind of a punch in the face, or something that opened your eyes for sure.
What am I doing? I got this hangnail that's really bothering me. What is wrong with me?
Yeah.
So.
And when did you start was that something early that you kind of picked up on?
I mean, it's easy to get off track.
Yeah.
Sure. It really is. But I mean, staying focused and stay on track and being grateful, being grateful for what you got. And I mean, I missed the last year. You're getting to rope for a living. What a life. What a life that we've got to lead. Wow, what is better than to go to a rodeo and win the day money and go have lunch?
Yeah.
Come back and take a nap. It's the best. It's the best thing in the world, to be winning at the highest level. I mean, you've experienced that. It's the best.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. It's one of those feelings, man, that's very hard to explain. And it's also one of them that's very addictive.
Yeah.
It's hard to let it go. It's hard. It's hard to go from there to somewhere else. It's hard to redirect that focus and that ability to feel that in almost anything else. It's pretty tough.
No, 100%. This has been the greatest. I've told people before, almost all the people that walked on the moon had trouble in their personal life when they come back, except one guy. I can't remember what guy it was, but he was a deeply religious guy. He believed he knew where Noah's Ark was, and he spent the rest of his life searching for the Ark. Well, the rest of them struggled because if your wife says, let's go on vacation, where are we going?
Try to impress me.
I've been there. Matter of fact, I left a car up there. You know what I mean? What can top that?
Yeah.
So I get that. Once you've walked on the face of the moon, once you've been at the very top level or won at the level or competed at the NFR, what a rush. I have a friend of mine, he's a very wealthy guy, and he's having trouble with his back and his health and all kinds of stuff. So we was on vacation for a week in Arizona this year. And, we went and shot doves, and then we were going to go to the desert and shoot quail. And he was just running from one activity to the other. And, and we were in a good place to shoot doves, but he wanted to go down further and shoot there. And then it wasn't as good. And then he wanted to go back there. So later on, I told him, we were having lunch. I said, I'm going to give you some advice. Once you've done the things that you've done and you have been successful as you have been, and I said, you know what it's like to back in the box on the last night at the NFR, and all you got to do is rope both feet, and you're going to be the oldest guy that's ever won the World Championship. Do you understand what kind of rush that is? Nothing is ever going to come close. We're just trying to find something that's sort of fun, right? But nothing is going to compare to what you've done in business and what I've done in rodeo business. Now we're just trying to find something that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. So enjoy what we're doing, and we'll go on to the next activity. So that's why I think certain people. I admire Donnie Gay. I really admire what he's done. I mean, 8-time. What would be more exciting if I rode a bull? If I could ride a bull, you wouldn't be able to get me out of the arena. I would just walk around the arena. You see what he just did? Look at that thing that I just got off of. It would just,
and I'm the very best 8 times.
Yes, 8-time world champion. What a deal. And then he went on and become super successful at all kinds of different things. He's a pilot, an announcer. I love listening to him at the NFR. I mean, he has enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody said, when one of the commentators said, Donnie, you act like you want to ride one of these bulls. He said, I really do. But he said, I got 40 pounds on me that's never been on a bull, and I don't have time to train it. What a great thing.
What a good comeback.
What a great thing to say. But I mean, I admire people like that because he's still Donnie Gay. He still walks around. Yeah, right. He can't ride a bull anymore, but he did. He did for a long time, And how many people do you know and can come into your mind that once they wasn't the star anymore, then all of a sudden they self-destructed?
Yeah, that's the danger of the addiction.
Yeah, but you can find something
else to replace
and you can. There is something else.
I agree.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Ryan Studdard with Oak Ash Realty. Ryan, the broker and owner of Oak Ash Realty, is someone who understands the land, lifestyle, and the work that goes into it. Whether you're looking for acreage to run horses and cattle, a place with room for an arena, or a home that fits your family just right, Ryan has the experience to help you find that perfect property that fits your needs. If you're looking to sell and want an experienced broker that understands the nuances of farm and ranch properties, Ryan has that track record. From ranch land and ranchettes to residential and investment properties across North Texas, Ryan knows what matters. I've had the experience of working with Ryan multiple times over the last few years, and I can attest firsthand to his knowledge and experience. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or just want a straight answer about land or real estate, give Ryan Studdard a call at 817-683-9505 or check him out at oakandashrealty.com.
Well, once the Oakdale 10 steer came about, then I'm sure going up and down the road, partners, where was it when things started? Was it successful right off the bat, or did it take a little bit of time to be able to get the guys, partners, to where you can start making the NFR?
I didn't like amateur rodeo. It wasn't for me. At that time, and I'm not saying they do now, but at that time there was cheating that went on, and they had 12 steers and 8 runs on the steers, and the same 7 guys got to go Sunday night in the slack after the last perf. I mean, I just hated any of that stuff. You know, one of the wonderful things about the rodeo business is there isn't any cheating. You know, I mean, it's a fair deal. They draw a name out of the hat. And, oh, that guy's green, and that guy's yellow, and that guy's black, and that guy's white. Listen, first guy to the line wins. Doesn't matter how you dress, what color you are. You get to the line first, you win. I love that. I love that about rodeo. And pro rodeo is fair. They do it. And if something happens, they have a rule for it. You don't need to run out in an arena and give them your opinion. There's a rule for it, and they fix it. You know, and I like that. So I didn't like amateur rodeo, and I had won almost everything you could win at jackpotting. And everybody has stories, but I went on a 7-week trip one time from California to New Mexico, and went to Springer, New Mexico, and Clayton, New Mexico, and Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's gone 7 weeks. I won every roping. I won every single roping that I went to. Well, now remember, there was only one guy in the world that could catch both feet. That was Leo Camarillo, and he was gone. He went rodeoing. So I went to all these jackpots, you know, and that was before the number system. Mm-hmm. And so there was, you know, nobody could compete at the level that I could rope at. And thank goodness for the number system, you know, because I like to play golf, but I don't want to play against Tiger Woods, right?
Kept it alive.
Yes.
Kept it alive for so many different people.
We all want to feel like we have a chance.
Which has benefited the industry because there's more people in it.
Oh, man.
100% on the number system.
Yeah. So anyway, I roped with Bob McClellan the first year and made the NFR, and I went to the NFR in Oklahoma City and never placed.
What year was that? Was that 80?
That was 76.
76.
76, and I never placed, and I had this little motorhome, a little open road motorhome, JAA 499 JAA was the license plate number. I don't know why, but anyway, I was driving along this motorhome, and my wife held up my NFR number, and she said, well, this is all we've got to show for our NFR experience. And I grabbed it and threw it out the window. My attitude needed working on, but I just lost, 10 nights in a row and had high hopes, and I threw it out the window. And she said, you're going to be sorry you did that. And I said, well, I'm not right now. Well, wish I hadn't thrown it out the window.
She was right.
First of all, I don't like littering. I shouldn't have done that. Throw my NFR number away. But anyway, it didn't go great then. And then I started roping with Doyle Gellerman, and he was a great roper. He really was.
You two fit.
Yeah, we did. We had different personalities.
Ahead of your time, I feel like.
Yeah. One of the things that I always admired, because I put up with this a lot, and it's hard to put up with, but all you ever heard was how good Speed Williams was. How good Speed Williams was. And there's little Richie. He didn't get much credit. I think he roped every steer by both feet at the NFR for 7 years in a row. I went to the NFR 20 times. I only caught them all one time. One time. He caught them all 7 years in a row. That's incredible. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. So Speed was just hanging on him, and Richie just 1, 2, bang. And he could throw in the switch. I've seen him do it a lot, but he didn't have to. He only knew what his job was, and that was catch both feet, and he did. So in the goal to win the world championship, so he knew his deal. Mm-hmm. When I roped with Doyle, that's all I heard. That's all I ever heard, is how good Doyle Gilman was. And I agree. He is an amazing roper. But I needed some credit, right?
Well, that's what Bobby Harris talked. I talked to him last week, and he was talking about you guys were the Speed and Rich of that era, where you had a fast guy and then a guy that didn't miss.
Right.
And so that blueprint was set, he said, by you guys.
Right. Tom Ferguson, I don't know if you ever knew Tom Ferguson, but he was a little bit of a recluse. He was a little bit reclusive, and I really liked Tom. He called me champ. And I really liked that because I felt like that he realized my potential. That's why he called me champ. Well, later on I found out that he didn't know my name. And so that's why he called me champ, because he didn't know who I was. That's not true. That's the truth, right? But I didn't know it. It made me feel good when he called me that. Anyway, we're at Yuma, Arizona, and Doyle turned a steer to be just like, I don't know, 4-0, before anybody else could turn a steer like that. And when he turned him, I threw right there. So we were somewhere a couple weeks later, and there was a racetrack, and I was riding around the racetrack by myself, kind of swinging my rope, just riding around, and Tom Ferguson rode up to me, and he goes, hey, champ, how's it going? I said, great. Tom, how you doing? And he said, hey, I seen you rope at Yuma. I remember at Yuma. And he said, I want to give you some advice. When you can hear him shutting the gate, the head gate on the chute, make sure you follow him and catch both feet. Right. Meaning when your guy turns one back, right there, get both feet. Don't try to throw as fast as he did. Now, he didn't have to help me. He didn't have to say that to me, right? But he did. He took the time to do that. So, I mean, that's what I did. That's what I was able to do with Doyle. He was a great roper, a great horseman, and he had been roping with his dad. When I first started roping with him, he had been heading for his dad. So he handled the steers like he was heading for his dad. And he could reach and then
control it.
Yeah. So, anyway, we did great.
So when 76, then along the lines when 81 was the first world title, is that correct?
Yes, 81 was
So talk a little bit about some of the momentum that got to where when you're from no money in 76 to walking out of Oklahoma City, the best healer in the world.
Right. It was like I was just the same as most rodeo guys. I honestly thought that I would be in jackpot roping for the rest of my life. And then all of a sudden I was in the rodeo business. And so I thought, well, this is where I'll be for the rest of my life. I'll just be a rodeo guy, you know. Okay, when I won the World Championship in 81, I cleared $5,000. That's how much money I had. There, you weren't allowed to have a sponsor. You weren't allowed to have a name on your shirt. It was against the rules. They actually voted on that. Who come up with that idea? You know, it's just terrible ideas that they came up with. But I mean, they didn't know any better, and they moved along. But anyway, I was so afraid that I was going to be broke. That's what I was afraid of.
You know, that's the one thing I remember hearing on Clinton Anderson's podcast. He was talking about, you know, a lot of the horse clinicians back then was to die alone in a single wide trailer in the middle of New Mexico. And, you know, there's almost tradition to where, you know, you're doing it for the horse. Well, you got to be broke in order to do that.
I love what he said.
I enjoyed it too. I got a lot out of that. And the fact of, you know, money isn't everything, but I don't want to be broke either.
No, right.
And
I love what he said. If you're doing it for the horse, then don't charge.
Yeah. Do it for free.
Right, do it for free. Yeah, I love what he said.
But when we're talking about rodeoing for a living, you know, it's great to do it for the fun because it's enjoyable. It's a romantic way of life.
Yes.
And you see things that no one else has seen. But you also want to provide.
Right.
You also want to have something to it. And so that's what I've really, really admired so much is that when you hit a certain point, when was it you decided that, okay, clinicians may be my route? Because there was a time period now after a world title where then you went and started doing clinics.
Yes. H.E. Lamance. H.E. Lamance changed my life. He was a guy from Southern California. He was a self-made guy. He walked out of his home in Athens, Texas, when he was 15 years old. There was an explosion down by Houston at one of those cities along the Gulf right there. There was an explosion. A refinery blew up. And they were hiring people, and he walked from Athens to the Gulf. And when he got to where there was a motel or a boarding house, and he was in line behind certain people, and he told the woman, he said, "I need a room," and she said, "We don't have any more rooms. That guy in front of you just got the last room." And the guy turned around and he said, "I'll split it with you." And this is a true story. There was one bed in the room, and the guy that he didn't know slept at one end and he slept at the other end. You slept with a man that he doesn't know in the same bed just because he wanted to go to work. I mean, who would do that nowadays? No one. Anyway, that guy changed my life. I met him. He lived in Yorba Linda, California. And I used to stop by his place. He invited me to his place. He had a young son and a daughter, and they all liked to rope. And I would go there and rope with them and help them with their roping. So he asked me one time, he said, "When I talk to you," he said, "it doesn't seem like you are listening to what I say." Because he said, as soon as I stop talking, you start talking. And I always thought there was something wrong with him because when I would ask him a question, he would always go. I thought he was slow, you know. I mean, he was thinking about the question and then he would answer. And he said, "You just blurt the answer right out." So he said, "It makes me think that you're not listening. You don't even value what I say." So he said, "I'm going to ask you a question tonight at dinner." And he said, "I don't want you to answer it until tomorrow morning." And I said, Okay. All right, great. So now there's 2 hours to dinner. I'm ready for the question. So at dinner, the question was, what do you have to sell? What do you have to sell? And as soon as he asked me that, I'm ready to go. I can answer the question. But I didn't. And he was always a list guy. He wrote stuff down all the time. So that night in my room, I had and I wrote all my stuff down that I had to sell. So the next morning at breakfast, we start breakfast. He doesn't ask the question. I'm just sitting there, and I'm ready to go with him. So finally he says, okay, did you think about the question? And I said, yeah. He said, what do you have to sell? I said, okay, I have my truck and my trailer, and I got 2 horses. I got a practice horse, and I listed all the stuff. And he said, I was afraid that you were going to answer that way. He said, I've also written some stuff down of what you have to sell. And he said, let me tell you what you have to sell. He said, you have 3 things to sell. And this is 1982, right in there. He said, you know how to win. For some reason, you know how to win. And he said, some people rope their entire life and they're not able to win. And he said, you have been able to do that. But he said, obviously, there's not enough money in it because you're the world champion and you don't have any money. And that was true. I didn't have any money. He said, the second thing is you're good at training horses. My dad was an amazing horse trainer. My earliest memory of my father and my grandfather talking about horses at our breakfast table when I was 3 years old. That's how long I've been around it. My dad was an amazing horseman. And he said, you are really good at horses. You've trained some of your own horses along with your father's guidance. When you come here, you change the bridles on our horses. You show us better ways to ride them, and they get better. But he said, if you ride outside horses, one of them will kill you eventually. One of them will break your back. They'll break your neck. They'll break your leg. They will wipe you out. Eventually, if you ride outside horses, one will get you. And they will. They will. That's one of the things that I admire about Clinton Anderson.
Your body's your greatest asset.
Right.
Don't get hurt.
But he never got wiped out. He used my barn one time when he was building his indoor. He asked me if he could use mine. And I was always amazed that he could get people on 2-year-olds, middle-aged people on 2-year-olds with a halter. How do you keep from killing them? You should have 2 helicopters in the parking lot to life flight people out. Well, what they do is they do their groundwork so well, and they lunge them around. I'm talking about when they get on those 2-year-olds, they have had it. They're just, you couldn't make them buck because his groundwork program is so good, and then he gets on them. So anyway, most people don't do that. He understands that. And the third thing that I had to sell was, he said, you understand the mechanics of roping. He said, you help me with my heading, and you help Chris with his heeling. You understand what we don't understand. And he said, we actually improve after you leave. And he said, we look forward to every time you coming. So he said, you should put on roping schools. And I said, no one ever calls me. And he said, isn't there a trade magazine in your industry? And I said, yeah, there is. He said, what's it called? I said, it's called the Roper Sports News. And he said, there's arena owners in there? I said, yeah. He said, you get in there. And he said, you look at all the arena owners, get the phone numbers, you call every one of them, and you tell them, I'm Walt Woodard. I want to put a roping school on. I'll provide the talent. You provide the arena and the cattle. We'll do a 3-day thing, and we'll split the money. I said, okay.
Learn how to sell.
So anyway, I called all 8 of them. There was 8 of them in Roper Sports News. I called all 8 of them, and 7 of them said no. And one guy said yes. One guy said yes. And so he advertised it for 3 months and in the Roper Sports News, and we got one guy. I got one student signed up. So I called H, and I said, H, I got one student. He said, congratulations. He said, that's 100% more than I thought you were going to get. Yeah. The guy's name was Bill Lido. And I said, H, I can't do a roping school for one guy. And he said, of course you can. He said, you're going to write your list down, and you're going to know what you're going to talk about at 9 o'clock, at 10:30, at 1 o'clock. You're going to have an agenda, and you're going to follow it. You're going to keep it in your pocket. You're going to open it up. You're going to look at it. I said, H, if I look at my list, I said, this guy will think that I don't know what I'm talking about. He said, he'll think you're trying. That's what he's going to think. Now, he said, you go over there, and he said, you put on a roping school for Bill Lido, or for the, I didn't know his name at that time, but I learned it because it was just him and I. Right? So for 3 days, I told Bill Lido everything I've ever known about roping, ever. And when I got done, he said, that was great. He said, hey, listen, I live in Fresno, 2 hours away. And he said, I got 3 or 4 buddies. And he said, would you come down there? I said, sure.
1 turned into 4 and 4 turned into...
Anyway, I ended up in New Zealand. I ended up in Australia and Puerto Rico and all over Canada, Hawaii, and all over the world. All over. Just because of that advice that I got from Texel Mans.
So making the NFR 20 times, that was throughout a long period of time. So when, the first part of your rodeo career, when was it that you turned off the rodeo and went straight clinician?
Man, I started really kind of leaning that way because
you were rodeoing and doing clinics at the same time, right?
Yeah, but you can't do it.
Yeah,
you can't do it. It's bad for your roping because you're not going full speed, right? And when something happened one time at a clinic, I was at a clinic and then we made the short go round, on Saturday night, and we had to have the airplane and we were going to fly. So I started the school at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I stopped at noon, and then, we were going to try to make it up the next day, and then I left. So anyway, I got there the next morning, and we started early, and there was a guy there, and he came up and he said, hey, he said, I really enjoyed the clinic. I really did. But he said, I'm married, and he said, we have a young child, and he said, I really had to try to justify taking money out of my family to come to the clinic. So he said, I volunteered for overtime, and I saved some extra money to come. And he said, I'll come back to another clinic that you have. But he said, the next time that I come back, I hope you're here for all 3 days. It would have been better if he'd have hit me with a pipe. You know what I mean? Other than say that to me.
That's deep.
That was terrible.
Yeah. And that is how hard it is. I felt like rodeo and trying to do a clinic.
Yeah.
Because you got to be number one priority is to win for your partner. And then I know exactly what you're saying. And then if you're taking clinics seriously, understanding that there's a lot of people that work their butt off to be able to put money aside to be able to come and experience a clinic that they feel like they're going to get back competing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this guy just...
That tears you.
Oh, it's terrible.
So shortly after that, you started kind of feeling like there's a decision, there's a line.
And it was really hard because I felt like I could win the championship again. And who knows? Maybe I couldn't have. But I won it in 81, and then I won it again in 07, So certainly there was some years in there where I could have won it again and again and again. Maybe not. Maybe I couldn't have. But, it was really hard to leave that world behind and then go into the school world. And, I was roping with a guy one time, and there was a guy named Gene Rice in Arizona. I don't know if you ever know or not, but he was a really powerful guy. And so I wanted to have a meeting with him. And I wanted to tell him about this roping school idea that I had and wanted to know what he thought about it. And there was a guy there that was thinking about, doing the same thing, but he wasn't sure. And so I convinced him to go to breakfast with me, 5:30 in the morning, because I wanted to take the guy to dinner, but he said, I don't have time to meet you for dinner. But he said, I only have time to meet at 5:30. He said, I run to the country club early in the morning. I take my shower. I eat my breakfast at 5:30. If you'd like to meet me for breakfast, I'll do it. So I tried to get this guy to go. I'm not getting up and go. I said, please go. It'll be good. So anyway, we go. And he asked me, he said, why do you want to put on roping schools? And I said, my dad was a hardworking guy. He was a horseshoer. And I said, we really didn't know what we were doing. We didn't understand any of the stuff. And I said, I really feel like I understand the mechanics of roping. I really do. I can teach people how to head. I can teach them how to heel. I know about horsemanship. And I said, I really feel like I can help people that was like my dad and I when I was a kid. So he looked at this guy that was, and he goes, why would you want to put on roping schools? And the guy goes, for the money. And he looked at me and he said, you will prosper. And he said, and you will fail. And later on, this friend of mine, he said, I told you I didn't want to go to breakfast with that guy. But I remember that.
Wisdom behind that.
Yeah, he said, if your motivation is money, you won't be successful. Money's a byproduct, he said. That's produced by a job well done. But he said, if that's your motivation, you won't be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. There's certain amount of study that goes behind being able to articulate what you were trying to say.
Yes.
And with your videos early, the sticks and flies, the
Right.
analogies you used where people could see what you were saying, it wasn't a gimmick. It was a hole in the industry that you felt like that you came a part of that helped people that couldn't drive from Wisconsin
Right.
to where your clinics was. So, okay, now let's get some VHS tapes out there and let's be able to reach people in any country that they want. And that's where I think that you did such a good job of being one of the first guys that felt that need, but then figured out a way to try to explain things so people could see it.
Right. Well, and I'm certainly not taking credit for anyone. And I really tried not to do that. I never said, oh, that's my guy. And that guy came to a clinic and I don't like to say that. And I'm certainly not taking credit for this. But Clay Smith said when he was a kid, he said they would watch the video and then they would go outside and rope the dummy. And and his brother would say something, and he would tell his brother, "That's not what he said. It's not what he said." He said we'd go in there, we'd watch it again, we'd come back out. Well, I'm not responsible for Clay Smith's success, but I thought that was cool that he did watch it, and there's a little bit of that, Mm-hmm. So anyway, Derek Begay says he didn't say this, but he did say this. He said it. We were at Caldwell, Idaho, and I always kind of warmed up by myself. I've always done it. I'm not real social when I get ready to rope, and that's one of the nice things about the rodeo business. Clay O'Brien Cooper doesn't like to visit, and everyone knows that, so nobody talks to him, right? I mean, that's the way it is, and they don't think he's stuck up. He's just a private guy. Right? Well, when I warm up by myself, that's fine. I'm not better than you or worse than you. That's just what I like, right? Anyway, Begay would always warm up by himself. So I seen him always by himself. So at Caldwell, Idaho, I decided to go over to him and I introduced myself. Derek, I said, I'm Walt Woodard. Yeah, I know who you are. He said, I said, where'd you learn how to rope? He said, watching videos. I said, whose video did you watch to learn how to head? And he said, I watched yours. I said, you watched my heading DVD to learn how to rope like that? He said, no. He said, I watched your healing DVD, and he said it was so screwed up that I quit and started heading. No, he says he didn't say that, but he said that to me. Now, whether he was setting me up, he was waiting for me. That's a true story.
That's a setup right there.
Yeah. It was so screwed up that I quit and started heading. So in a roundabout way, I'm responsible for his success, right? For doing such a crummy job on a DVD.
I love that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Right. Yeah, he said he didn't, but he did. He did say it.
I love it. Well, talk a little bit about how many years once you retired from full-time competition, did clinics, and then what decided for the comeback?
Because and while I was gone, I thought about it every day. I thought about competing every day. I would even get in the journal and I would figure out the schedule. I figured out a 4th of July run, with Cody and Red Lodge and Livingston, Greeley, and I was sick. That's what had been such a big part of my life, and I prided myself on being able to enter, because yourself that there are guys that are great at it, and there's guys that are not very good at it. And anyway, I prided myself at being really good at it. But anyway, I thought about it all the time when I competed or when I was putting on schools every day. Clay O'Brien and Alan Bach were still winning, and I thought, I can beat those guys. I mean, I can't beat them every time. But I mean, if those two, and I don't mean that out of disrespect. I mean, if those two guys were 45th and 49th, then I probably wouldn't have done it. But they're 2nd and 5th, and they're still in the game. So I thought, I can do it. I mean, if they're still winning, and there was a time where I could stay with them, and I'm going to go back. So I got a guy, and I got Nelson Linares, and him and I roped, and we did pretty good. And then I got Sherwood.
How much did you feel like when you decided to start studying team roping, studying helping people learn how to rope? how much of it did you start reflecting on back where you were and you're like, kind of wished I knew that when I was rodeoing?
Yeah.
Because like when I've retired now and started really studying the mechanics of things, and I tell you the thing, not only just how much it helped me learn my swing, the horsemanship now, and I think a lot of it has to do with the futurities now too. Like they're judging on how horses are supposed to work, and so that's really opened up my eyes there too. But what I have learned trying to teach it, and I'm like, I wished I'd have knew that then, because man, the hundreds of thousands of dollars I lost probably a year,
right,
where this was getting in my way, because I'm learning now to make sure that I can instruct the whole run from the back of the box to the finish.
Yeah.
And then you deep dive into that, and there's times where I'm like, I'm able to go home and practice that now and work on that.
Sure.
Like, golly, I left so much money on the table. Was there any of that when you came back, or was it the recharge?
No,
and I just want to get back at it.
I have such an understanding of my mechanics. I mean, I'll debate mechanics with anyone. We can talk about it all you want to, and not that I'm interested in it anymore. There was somebody that wanted to have a contest and take people and find out who the best instructor was in the world, and they were going to give a buckle away. I said, why would I care about that? I don't care about that. It means nothing to me. I know what I know, and I know how to help people, right? That's what I do. One of the things that helped me is being gentler with my horses. Trying to, like when you're traveling with them, they're like your buddies, because you're with them. They get like dogs, because you're living with them and touching them, and you can put your hand just barely on their nose and put a little pressure and they'll back up. So that's something that I got better at. Not trying to force them to do stuff. My dad said that most of the time when a horse doesn't do what you want him to do, it's because he doesn't understand what you want him to do. Very rarely is it because he doesn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, one of the best sayings I'd ever heard was from Ian Francis: "The word when anger begins is where knowledge ends." And,
yeah,
man, that one hit me right between the eyes.
The best thing about horsemanship I ever heard, and I'm sorry I didn't go out of my way to meet Ray Hunt. They said he was a tough guy, but I was raised by tough people, so he wouldn't have offended me, But I should have went and met him and talked to him. But Ray Hunt said there's only 3 days a month that a horse retains knowledge. There's only 3 days that you can train a horse. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was only 3 days that they got information. But he said you have to ride them the other 28 so you don't miss those 3. Is that not great? That's a great, because when he started saying that, I thought, oh my gosh, you kidding me? You can ride a horse on the 1st, and the 15th, and the 27th? Oh, that's going to be great. I'll get 30 of them. No, you got to ride them every day. So.
Hi, I'm Trevor Brazil. My name's Corey Kuntz.
Hi, I'm Gino Nogueira.
I'm Luke Brown.
Hi, I'm Tyler Wade.
I'm Caleb Driggers.
Miles Baker.
Wesley Thorpe.
Paul Eaves.
Patrick Smith.
We ask so much out of our horses that recovery is crucial, and that's why I use Equinety. I've been doing this a long time. What I have in common with these ropers is we all trust Equinety.
I feed Equinety because I want to give my horses any edge.
My horse,
my horse,
all my horses have the Equinety edge.
Yeah, that was, so when you came back, and because it looked like there was some fire, looked like there was some hunger.
Right.
And, I loved competing with you. I loved it when you would walk by me at the U.S. finals. He goes, Charlie, I'm the man.
Right. Yeah.
Because
right.
For me, it was fun.
Right.
It was fun to be able to, but then you win it.
Right.
You win the U.S. finals.
Sure.
And so when you're calling your shot like Babe Ruth
right.
after the 3rd, 4th round, it's hard not for me to admire that. But there was some hunger there. There was some drive that came back. And it was fun to see, between the 26-year gap at age 52 and 2007 to be the best healer in the world again.
Right. Well, that's nice. I had a great horse, and I had Clay Tryan. So pretty hard to be cocky, or pretty easy to be cocky when you got a great horse and you got Clay Tryan. He's never late and he doesn't miss.
Talk a little bit about Clay Tryan, because we've been talking a lot in the last few episodes because we've been kind of going down the 80s and 90s rabbit hole a little bit. But then when you're coming back now, and now we're talking about the mark Clay Tryan was leaving at that time between Jackpots, Rodeo. I always thought he was a good mix between Jake Barnes and Speedy, and because he had that drive and that lion mentality, a lot like Jake, but he also had that ability to win first, like Speedy as well too. And so he was kind of that middle gap in there. But talk about what it was like that when you got in the rig with that guy coming back.
You know, honestly, when I roped with him, he was a nice guy. He was nice. Bobby would make me sandwiches. We would stop along the road. It was very, very nice. He was a really nice guy. He was kind of kind, you know. And it's a little different than that now. But I mean, still, I think he's certainly the top 2 or 3 headers in the world. Isn't he the number 1 guy? Hasn't he won the most? Maybe Driggers passed him last year. But I mean, he's amazing. He hardly ever is late. Mm-hmm. He hardly ever misses. I mean, his handles they can catch him. They're not crazy handle. He doesn't rope them around the neck and flop them around. I mean, I think he's a remarkable header. Unbelievable.
I tell you that too, and then like he's had some great ones. Thumper.
Yes. That's what we had when I roped with him.
Yeah, he's had some horses.
I shot Thumper. Yeah, I shot him. He said, he's asked me to shoot Thumper, and I thought, man, I don't know if I'm qualified. And I wasn't. I wasn't qualified to shoot him. But I crawled around him and got him on him. I did get him shot.
Yeah, that guy's drive, man, the Jackpots and Rodeos, he wanted it.
He's a great roper. And he was great to me. He really is. He's great to me. He told me a couple things. He said, when I roped with him, he said, if I miss the steer, don't head him. He said, if you want to head, start on my side. Right? That's what he says. Don't cross over there and head him. And he said, and don't take illegal shots when we're practicing. He said, I'm not gonna head if you're gonna crossfire. Because the steer come to the right one day and I heeled him because I couldn't get away from him. I just heeled him. And he said, if you're gonna do that, then just heel him running down arena. I won't hit him. So that's the last time I did that. But he was a great, and he still, I think he still is. I mean, I'd bet whatever you wanted to bet that if he wanted to make the NFR this next year,
he'll figure it out.
He would. He's amazing roper. How good he is.
Yeah, there's things you can't hold down in some people, and they're built and they're wired differently, and that's one of them. Like his ability to, whatever's going on, he'll adapt.
My wife always likes to talk about that she potty trained Tyler. Every time Tyler ropes on TV, is it Tyler? Right, that's so good.
Yeah.
She said I potty trained him.
Yeah, and that kid to me, like there's a reason why that kid's so ahead of his time. I mean, he's seen it all. He's seen the start at Ellensburg. He's seen the
you know, when we roped, Bobby would say that boy's different. He's different. He's special. I mean, when he was little, you know. I mean, we were roping a dummy one day, and Tyler, he could rope the dummy like a man when he was 3. It was amazing. And Clay told Bobby, said, how about the fact that my boy can rope that dummy like that? She said, what about the fact that he can't talk? How about that? I'd be more focused on that. You know, I mean, I'm certain he can talk now, but maybe he was just shy then. But he could rope the dummy like a man when he was a little kid.
Yeah,
I don't know him very well now, but man,
I've just been watching him on the Cowboy Channel.
Unbelievable.
He's got that same.
He ropes it. He can throw so far.
So tall.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm. Great. It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
So when you came back and won that world title, what did that feel like at 52 though? Because that's special. That's a lot of years that you did some other things, probably learned a lot more about business on the time off and what you were doing, being able to get around some of the successful people that a guy couldn't almost do when you're rodeoing in a way, with what you did with clinics, but then to come back and like, all right, but to get that title and stand up there with that buckle, I mean, that had to be pretty dang special at 52.
Well,
special anyways, but then how you did it was incredible.
You know how when people say, "Oh, I'm just dumb enough to think that way." You know, the year before when I roped with Sherwood, when Matt, you know, we get in the habit of calling people by the last name anyway. When I roped with Sherwood, he won it and I won second, but Alan Bach beat me, and so I thought to myself, if I can beat everybody except him, surely I can beat one more guy. And isn't that right? Mm-hmm. Right?
Because you've already done it before.
Yeah, surely I can beat one more guy. And so once I get that in my head, I just decided I could beat him too. You know, and then, you know, he battled it out all year long. I mean, because probably one of the toughest competitors that I've ever roped against is Albach. I mean, what a tough competitor, mm-hmm. man. He just grinds it out. A great work ethic, tremendous roper. But anyway, I believed, that year I had Clay Tryan. You know, I had Clay Tryan. And I think the way that what Al Bach does or did against me is he just keeps roping both feet and then he waits for you to make a mistake, you know. And then too, you know, at the NFR, sometimes you just lay up and go catch and you win third that night, okay? And it seemed like that had happened to him before. You make the run of your life and you're 4-1 and it split 6 that night. You know, I mean, you gotta be lucky there. You gotta have some luck. You gotta have a great horse. You gotta have a great partner. You gotta be prepared.
It's kind of like that truck driver. There's times that truck better not break down.
Absolutely, you gotta be lucky over there. Things have got to fall your way. The year I won the championship in 07, there was a big steer. You know, in how they set the pins there. You know, the big pin goes 1, 4, 7, and 10. There was a big steer in there that didn't fit. He come out, had big horns. He was bigger than the rest, and went off to the right. Right? And they debated, man, should put him in, don't put him in. Okay, we're going to put him in. Well, I didn't get him. I didn't get him the first night. Okay, well now, you know, now it's 1 out of 14, yep. Right? I didn't get him night 4 either. Nice. Okay, now we're down to 1 out of 13. I didn't get him night 7. Okay, we're down to 1 out of 12.
10th round.
Didn't get him again. And I rode by the pen that night, and I seen him in there, and I thought, boy, I feel bad for the guy that got him. Wasn't me though. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, yeah. I could have got him, right? But it wasn't meant to be. It was meant that I was, you know, being prepared, had a great horse, but I could have got him, right? But I didn't.
Some of my funniest stories that even me and Joseph Harrison talk about to this day was when we were rodeoing and we walked by you and said, "Hello, Walter, how are you?" He said, "Terrific, Charlie. Do you know what it feels like to be a 2-time world champion?" Right. Do you know what's great about that? I said, "No, sir." What is it? Well, everything.
No, it's
everything is good.
Exactly right.
With me and Joe's knee slap to that, we still talk about it today.
Yeah.
The energy that you would bring, that when people would show up, oh, I loved it. I loved that when there was times I remember going up to you and I was having a bad day, just because your energy and your enthusiasm. You learned that. Like, that was something that I enjoyed and you carried to where it was admirable, because like a conversation with you, I'm going to laugh and I'm going to enjoy it. And there's probably going to be a story behind it where it kind of changes the day of sometimes where rodeoing can drag you down just to kind of get back to normal again. Yeah. Truly enjoyed that.
Well, thanks. But I mean, we're playing a game. We're getting to rope for a living. Mm-hmm. How could you be sad? You know what I mean? What a wonderful thing we've been able to do. You know, I had one job when I was 17 years old, and I hated it. You know what I mean? Never did anything else other than rope. I get to ride and rope every day.
It was interesting too. You know, when you think about there towards the, you know, when you were rodeoing the second time around, and then I was talking with Logan Olson. He said one of the favorite stories is when you first got your start, when you were rodeoing maybe in a 2-horse trailer. Yeah. And there was not places to stay or couldn't afford places to stay. You know, talk about the difference between the first half of your career and the second half of your career.
I had a 2-horse Miley trailer and a black pickup with 4-speed vinyl seats, no air conditioner. It had a wing. You know, those wings. Most young people don't know that they had a wing where you could, you know, put the air in on you. And I had a bucket of water that I would dip a towel in, and I would wrap the towel around me, and then I would turn the vent, and air would blow in and cool me down. You know, that's how I did it, because I couldn't afford anything else. I was saving my money, and I had a 55-gallon drum in the back of my truck with a garden hose that I would siphon because it was, during the Carter administration, you couldn't get gas. So you'd have to sit in line for, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to fill your deal up. Anyway, Leo Camarillo told me I was a rolling bomb. He said I was going to blow up an overpass somewhere one of these days with that gasoline in the back of my truck. Anyway, I had a Miley trailer, and I had a cot, and I would clean the manure out of the trailer, and then I would put my cot in there, and I'd put my sleeping bag on there. And I don't know if you remember this, but they had curtains that you could snap on the back of a 2-horse trailer, and it would keep the snow and the rain from going in on your horse. It had buttons on it. It was anyway, I got that, and I put my cot in there, and I put my sleeping bag in there, and then I put that curtain up there, and I laid down on my sleeping bag, and I thought, man, that's living. That's nice, man.
This is living.
Yeah, it's nice because no one could see me then. They couldn't see me in my bed. And Leo at Reno told me that I looked like a vermin. I was a vermin. I didn't know what a vermin was, but I knew it wasn't something that I wanted to be. He called me, but I liked him in my camp anyway. It was fun having him there for a little bit. But that's how I did it. But they had a shower at Reno, and they had hospitality. I had a bed that didn't get wet, so.
And then you think about the second career, and then
now
we're looking for a plug-in and
the rigs and semis and buses and amazing. Yeah, I had a Capri camper, and it had an air conditioner and a shower. Wow, that was nice, man. And a bed. Yeah. It depends on where you came from and what it's like, but.
Talk a little bit about the competition, back when you were competing. Talk a little bit about kind of what, were you seeing it where it was now, and a lot of the competition on where you see where it's at nowadays a little bit, and kind of the difference now of where you feel like Team Roping's heading.
Man, a lot of guys ask me, about Leo Camarillo. I felt like he could make it today. I mean, if he roped now, he could make it. But a lot of the guys back then, those guys had jobs, and they really didn't, take it seriously. Gerald was a good roper, but not like his brother. His brother was an amazing roper. It's incredible now that, 35 on 5 with fresh steers at 377 is no money. Now, you thought I was going to say first place, didn't you? 35 on 5, that's 7 flat, 5 times in a row on fresh steers with a heeling barrier is no money. That's unbelievable. Travis Graves and I, we're buddies. I talk to him every day. And I were somewhere, and he come by me, hey, what'd you do on your first one? I said, I was 8-6 or something. He goes, oh, too bad. What do you mean? Well, you're out. You're out. I didn't know it. But I was done. I had no chance because I was 8-6 on the first one. And can't do it. 7, you're 17 or 15-6. Come back 7, 22-6. No chance. Can't do it.
Yeah, there's so many more of them now too.
Oh man, the guys are
like you said, they worked for a living back then a lot of times, and so now these kids rope for a living.
I tell you something that's changed is the money, is family money, sponsor money. I don't know if they're roping for their own. I don't know if they're roping on their own money. They're roping for. I can remember backing in a box when I was a young guy. And I had a chance to win first, but I knew I could win third, and I don't have any money, right? So, no money means food, fuel, that's no money, right? It's depending on if I win. So, I had to go for third. I couldn't go for first. I think these guys back in there, and they think it's winner take all. It's as fast as you can go. They reach from their very first steer and ride to the end of it and throw right in the turn right off the bat.
And do it 5 times.
Yeah. Isn't that great? That's wonderful that the sport has evolved like that. It's incredible how good people are nowadays.
Yep.
But the more good guys do it, the more guys see it, and then they can imitate it. You know, good swing speed, and being out around them, being able to heel them into turn.
I totally agree. I think what you're saying to me, I think like with Facebook and Cowboy Channel, is these kids are growing up and they're getting to see it from their own home.
Yeah.
Back then you had to go and see it. You know, so now guys are watching, studying, rewinding, and then the tools and just the technology now behind things is. And then I really like the horsemanship side behind the futurities and stuff, where people are riding enough of them to where you're understanding how to make the horses work now. Because, I mean, for me, for the longest time, the corner, I was guessing.
Right.
You know, I didn't know where my hands should be. I didn't know where my feet should have been. You
Right.
know, I'm watching where I got the steer's head, then all of a sudden got back. I'm like, how did that happen?
Right.
Like, where did I go wrong? You know, and now you're learning how to be able to put the horse in the right spot to be able to keep those steer's head. And then another lot of things, like for me, is now the ability to set that horse up for the face. Your left-handed feet have got to be able to give that horse a cue in the correct way to keep him doing that every single time. And you know, I think those are things too that a lot of these guys are learning, is the angles of where the horse needs to be ability now. Like I rarely see a lot of them guys now where that slack is ever loose when them heelers rope, and you know, just little things like that I'm seeing where now there's so many guys that can throw and use the rope. Now you're seeing guys now to being able to handle them from that far back.
That helped me a lot. Clay Tryan, when he rode Thumper would leave with his head. He wouldn't leave with his shoulder. He would leave with his head. So Clay would stick, and Thumper would leave, and he'd pick him up, and the steer would hit soft, heel him. Nicholas, when Sherwood rode Nicholas wasn't very strong anyway. So he'd rope. Nicholas would try. Steers was soft. I was able to heel him. You know, so I mean that. You know, there are some guys, some world-class guys. Now, I mean, I really like Tyler Wade. I really like him. Him and I should, if we draw each other in a draw pot, I don't think we should rope. I mean, I tried to heel for him one time. It was very difficult for me. I mean, it was probably something I did. You know what I mean? But it
was me. It wasn't you.
It was me, but it seemed very difficult. Right? So maybe that was just a day, and I'm sure it wasn't me, but it seemed tough to me.
That's funny.
Right.
Yeah, when you think about, though, back when I think of you guys, where you guys started too, was there was so much what you guys were paving the way was that blueprint to be able to be consistent. You know, bigger steers, longer starts, and using them horses. And what you guys did then is like there's now is that ability to be able to teach that to so many ropers, because that is what the key is now, to be able to show almost from a 13 rope and down, hey, look, this is what needs to happen to be able to make a successful run this many times in a row. And then now you're seeing where at the upper level where the steers are getting a little smaller, the ropes are changing a little bit.
Yeah.
The head horses has changed. You know, it's not the big, strong running head horse anymore. You know, it's the horse that can keep the same spacing almost a little bit to the steer, where you can use the rope to where it's tight. You know, what do you feel like on the heel side has been changing a little bit this making it evolve even more?
Speed. Horses can run. You've got to have a heel horse that can run.
There's a lot to that, because I think of when that steer gets started, you've got to somehow figure out how to outrun the rope.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you can almost get a little bit of a head start and that head horse catches up, and then all of a sudden you're in the middle of the arena and you're in the same spot.
Right.
Like there's such an ability now to be able to be in the right spot because you can't outrun the rope.
No. And a heeling barrier. I really dislike a heeling barrier. I really do. I tell you what I want to do. I want to have a roping at my house. I want to have a heeling barrier, but I'm going to put the two guys with raincoats on, and great big heavy set guys, on the head and side. I'm going to put them on the head and side. And I want to see what the headers will say. Hey, you can't stand there. And I want to say, why? Oh, I know, because you can't see the steer, can you? That's what it's like when you heel.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a guy on the head.
Yep.
You got a guy working the chutes.
Yep.
And
they always get guys that are heavy set.
And you can't see the steer.
Cannot see the steer. Cannot see the steer. You better not break the barrier, because you're a goof if you break the heeling barrier, but you better not be late either. Because if that steer runs and steps left just a little bit and they're hanging on him, you're not even close. Yeah. So anyway, I'd love a heeling barrier. If I like Prescott, I love Prescott. I love it. Because I can see the steer better than a header can.
Yeah.
I'm looking right at him. I get great starts at Prescott. because I can see if it's rib to the pin or if it's flank or if it's whatever it is, because I'm looking right at him and I can go when I want to because my horses score good. But I think it's crummy that you can't see the steer and they have a heeling barrier. And I wish healers would stick together and boycott it. Because we could. Because headers did it. They said, we've spent our entire life getting our horses to score, and we are not heading on a World Series barrier. We're not doing it. And all the producers in Stephenville goes, okay, all right, then we won't have one. We'll put a regular barrier up for you. Isn't that right? So they did it. They stuck together and said, no, spent our entire life getting our horses to score. And now you want us to go with the gate? It's ridiculous. Not doing that. We could do the same thing because there's enough healers to where we could stick together. We don't want them running to the left. I promise you, if you're a healer and you run to the left, run steers over the top of your header, you're going to lose your job because you can't win if you run a steer to the left fence because you can't win anything because the header's trapped behind him and you can't get away from him. You wouldn't be able to win anything anyway. Mm-hmm. And you would get scolded when you got to the catch pin, right?
100%.
No, you want to step, don't step them too much. So
this episode is brought to you by Crossfire Trailer Service in Stephenville, Texas. If you haul horses or livestock, you already know when a trailer goes down, everything stops. Crossfire takes trailer safety seriously. Every trailer gets a free safety inspection with pictures and videos sent straight to your phone. They get it. Nobody wants their trailer sit in a shop for weeks over routine maintenance. They offer same-day bearing service, and they stand behind their work. They're big supporters of the rodeo and Western industry, backing athletes and events all over the area. Next time you're in Stephenville and need trailer work, call and schedule an appointment or just stop into Crossfire Trailer Service. If you tell them I sent you, they'll knock $50 off any preventative maintenance service.
What about, now this is the one thing that I need to call around and I need to research it, but I know there's been a rule change in the Crossfire recently, and I believe it happened after I retired, and I haven't done a good enough job of, because I would like to be able to see what the new wording is, because when I left and where they're throwing now, like they're letting them rope. What do you feel like the difference is now of what the rule change is and where it's at on the hillside?
I just so dislike it. I really do. I mean, and you know, when you get older and you say something, you're an old bitter guy. You know, I am not bitter. I love the sport. I can't wait tonight until 7:30, right? Because Houston's on. It starts at 6:45. They team rope at about 7:35. I'll have my sweats and my NFR T-shirt on, and I'll watch the team rope. And I watch it every night. You know, I love it. I loved watching San Antonio. I loved watching Houston. You know, I'm a fan. I'm a rodeo fan. I go out there and practice every day and think about it. And going to California, and I'm going to heel for Dan Green in California. Can't wait. I wake up in the middle of the night. Ow, I got Dan Green. You know, I mean, what a chance. What an opportunity. You know, I mean, I love it. But, I mean, these shots are illegal. They're illegal. I mean, and Driggers is the director, and I love Caleb Driggers. Listen, you want to fix Crossfire, get Junior Noguera and Jade Corkill. They will fix it. It's so gray, and they know what a crossfire is because they don't crossfire. They do not. Oh, because Junior can't crossfire? Really? You think he can't crossfire? Go to the American and watch him crossfire. Yeah. He'll do it every time, but he doesn't do it during the regular season, and he doesn't like getting beat when somebody does it. He doesn't like when people cheat, and I don't know if it's cheating is the right word, and he didn't say it, but listen, I have all kinds of opinions about this.
I love hearing it.
You can't pay the barrel man more than you pay the judge. You can't pay the clown more than you pay the judge. You got to pay the judges, and you got to get quality people in there, people that want to do it and that know what it's right. And when you flag a guy at the NFR and he does it again, flag him out again. Get him again. But, they don't know what it is. I even looked at it when I came over here today. There's what I think was a crossfire. I thought, is it Douglas Rich that heals for
Jake Smith?
Jake Smith. Was it San Antonio? I think it's San Antonio. Now listen, I'm not taking a shot at anybody. And people say, well, if they're good enough to do it, first of all, It's not that hard to crossfire. All you have to do is move over, get behind them, and you can heel them into turn. And if they make it legal, look out, because these guys will get really good at it. But, to me, listen, when he threw, I thought it was no time. That's what I thought. As soon as he threw, and I remember, like Wade Wheatley said, your view from the couch was a lot better than when you're in the arena, wasn't it? That's a pretty profound thing to say. So remember, I'm on the couch. I'm not in the arena, but I'm a fan now, right? I'm a fan. If I'm not in it at San Antonio, I'm a fan. But when he heeled that steer, I said to myself, no time. That's what I said. And it was no time. There was 77 comments on Facebook. 4 of them thought it was illegal. 73 thought it was legal.
Mm-hmm. That's what I've been watching too, is like when it's all right, crossfire or not, because that's almost like your religion and politics at Thanksgiving. You mentioned crossfire and it's amazing where it goes. And I've watched that too. It's like, I wonder what people think of that. And amazing the amount of times it's like legal shot. No, let them rope. But then the same sense is like, there's something too what you said about Jade Corkill and Junior, is that when I can't turn certain things off, because like when I was rodeoing, when I would see a shot and if it looked like it was on the line, the first thing I do is I look at the flag.
That's what I do too.
I guess it's a natural instinct.
Yes, if it's early, you look at that guy.
When I've watched Junior rope, I don't.
Never. Or Jade. Never.
There are certain guys when they rope, Clay Cooper, there's certain when they hit, and then when it was coming right up, didn't even look back. And now I'm constantly going, is it not?
You want to study legal shots? Watch Torres, watch Jade, and watch Junior at the NFR last year. Every single steer that they heeled was legal. Every one. It's not hard to figure out. Show the judges and show the world. Show Facebook. I look at Facebook all the time. It's a way for me to be social without talking. I look at it all the time, but I'm not commenting.
Right.
You think I'm going to get drug into that thing? No way. No way. Jade Corkill at the NFR, they interviewed him. They said, what'd you think? Think it was illegal? He said, I thought it was illegal. I thought it was no time. But no one on Facebook does. Jade Corkill, if one of the 2 best healers in the world, right? I mean, if you're going to pick somebody to challenge Junior, you would pick Jade.
Well,
Jade,
look at his comeback.
Jade hasn't rodeoed for 3 years.
I mean, you did not see hardly anywhere last year that guy messed up.
No.
I mean, his concentration is Clay Cooper.
Yes.
Material, and his ability to know where the feet are going to be, where that first hop is phenomenal. His focus is that same way. And, like I say, there's certain guys you watch and that they know where that spot is. I credit it to their discipline. I credit a lot of it to the header being able to put them in that spot as well. And I'm with you in the fact of, can they not come together and find what that line is?
They can.
Do you think it's the team ropers that can't come together and find it, or do you think it's the inability to be heard?
These guys now, they're friends. These guys aren't mean-spirited.
What I mean by the inability to be heard is will the association allow them to be able to make the rule clear?
Look at the steer wrestlers. Look at what they've done. The steer wrestlers at Salinas, every year it was a 35-foot score. They got together and said, we're not doing it. It's too far. It's too dangerous. We're not doing it.
Didn't back in the day the hazer have to come from the...
And they changed that too.
Yeah.
They changed that too. They said, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. And so they don't do it. Because they stick together.
That event does.
Yes.
100%.
You know that they don't pay for trades? You don't
pay
I think
in that line, if Rod Lyman told me right, he said you can trade or you can doctor's release. The choice is yours.
Absolutely. They'll beat you up. You'll get beat up in that sport, and they get along great. It's clear.
Yeah, it's clear. The line is clear.
Pain is a universal thing that makes people, it becomes clear what they want. There's people now that enter for the middle at cities that we go to just so because they know they can get their fees paid. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know who started paying for trades. I don't really care anymore. But somebody started it in a team roping. And now it's completely out of line. It's $1,000 to buy a trade. And people know it, and they'll enter for it. People that live in the city enters for the middle because they know that we'll pay. You know, that's terrible. And steer wrestlers do not do it. So they've proved that you can stick together. They did it. They did it at Cheyenne a couple years. I can't remember what the point was, but 40 of them didn't enter, right? There's 40 of them that didn't enter. They didn't. Hey, we're not doing it. Not going to go. And no one entered it because they'll beat you up. Right?
Come to your house.
Yeah, they'll come to your house, right? Right. And they're huge people, and they're violent if they want to be. You know what I mean? And the team ropers could do it. They could get together, and they could video. I'm telling you, Torres never took an illegal shot. Jade never took, and I'm not saying other people did. I'm just saying those 3 guys on all of those steers that they healed, none of those shots were early. And listen, do you know Aceberry?
Remember that name?
Aceberry won he won the I think the bareback riding average at the NFR. He flagged the team rope in 1 year long, and he's 1 year at the NFR, and he's a no nonsense guy. And you know, I don't know if it's like this anymore, but it used to be anyone that has any power at all at the NFR calls a meeting. You got to go to a meeting on Tuesday, and then another person wants a meeting, and you got to go to another one. Sick of that stuff. Anyway, you have to go to them. You should be excited, and you are excited. But after the 14th meeting, I mean, I that's enough. Anyway, Aceberry, he's going to flag the team rope, and he calls a meeting for the 15 healers, which is odd because he's such a no-nonsense guy. So we walk in this room. Everybody sits down. He says, I'm Aceberry. There's a chalkboard on the wall. He says, I'm Aceberry. And he says, I'm flagging the team rope. And he takes an eraser, and he said, this is straight. That's a jump. That's turned, and that's a jump. He said, if I get confused just a little bit, I'm going to flag you out. One more time. This is straight. That's turned. That's a jump. Any questions? Nope. Enjoy the rodeo.
Clear.
No one did it. How many healers go to a rodeo and somebody will throw early, and what's all the healers say? Game on today, like green light. They know what it is. A world champion header told me the other day, and I'm not going to say his name, a world champion header. You know what he said? I wish I'd have never went out in the arena at Allensburg, and I wish I'd have never went out in the arena at Pendleton. I wish I wouldn't have done it. Because now they're afraid that they're going to get drug into the mud, and the flaggers are afraid to make a call. I wish I'd have never went out there. That was a mistake. Takes a big man to say I didn't want to, but you want to support your buddies. You know, my son can really rope. He can really rope. Vernal, Utah. Can't remember who he roped with, and I'm talking about healed one right now. Early. It was early. Harry Rose is flagging. Travis heals him to win the rodeo. And as soon as he throws, as he's dallying, what do I look at? I look right at Harry. I'm over on the fence. I look right at Harry. Harry flags him out. Oh, big deal. Travis's header throws a fit. Travis throws, which is an emotion. Nobody wants to be flagged out, right? I go to the trailer. They get back to the trailer. Oh, here they come. My wife jumps on me. Where were you? My son gets on me. Where were you? I thought it was early. And if I didn't think it was early, why would I look at Harry? I thought it was early. When I go out in the arena to argue, it's because I know it wasn't early. Mm-hmm. I know it wasn't. Or you don't have any credibility at all. Right? Anyway, listen, you're married to a breakaway roper, right? I think that if a breakaway roper is good enough to heal the calf and it breaks away, it should be legal. Any catch, front leg, doesn't matter. Calf runs through it, you get their tail, good enough, as long as it breaks away. What do you think she would say?
That's fair.
That's not the sport.
Mm-hmm.
There's
an ability to rope a neck.
Yes, you're gonna ruin team roping. You have a chance to keep the integrity together. You can keep the sport the way it is. I mean, don't have a header. Just have the healer heal and run her down the arena. I think a commentator said that one time. Take the rule completely out. Oh, man.
Well, I know a lot of the producers talk about it because they just don't want the controversy at the roping.
Yeah,
they don't want it to all of a sudden now at the end have anything that can create drama. So they just
listen. You can fix it. It's not gray. It's not complicated. It's early or not early. And I promise you, Junior and Jade and Torres, look at Torres's runs at the NFR. Those were all legal shots.
That was Big Money was talking about last week, was the ability to be able to be at that right spot. There's an art to being able to be there on that first top. There's a discipline, there's a header, there's control, there's, anyways, like anyone can just pull off and whoop it down.
Get over there behind him. Get over there behind him and just heal him when they switch, heal him. Mm-hmm. Right. I don't know Denton Dunning very well, but I was somewhere with him, and somebody healed one early, and I said, that's hard. And he goes, heat crossfiring? No, it's not. No, it's not. I kind of felt stupid. He said, it's not hard to crossfire a steer. And that's right. Watch out there, Rancho Rio, them guys are healing them, running right open, and just healing them, running straight down the arena. So anyway, I'm a fan of team roping. I absolutely love it, and I hope that they fix it. Yeah. Because 3-3 was the record. 3-3 was a legal shot. It was a legal shot.
Right.
And I and it's not that hard to fix it. They could fix this, and Driggers could fix it. Driggers is a smart guy. He could fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with all that.
One of the things I think sometimes he doesn't fix it is because he thinks can't beat me anyway. So,
I just never know how hard it is to deal with the PRCA, because and I know that there's been a lot of times we've tried to do things and got ignored. Right. So I don't know what he's up against, because neither one of us are throwing shade on Driggs. We both know that he's going to do what I feel like is best. I do trust that guy 100%.
Yes.
I just wonder what he's battling to be able to get it this clear, because I think he's one of the sharpest guys to be at that lead.
No, absolutely, no doubt. It's great, but we could do it because these people would stick together.
Yeah,
they're completely different. It's not like when I was a kid. They were mean-spirited people. These are good guys, and if you tell them, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stick together, and we're going to fix this. I almost texted him the other day. I almost did, but I thought, he'll think I'm bitter. But I hope they fix it.
Yeah,
because it's not that hard.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the drawing that you had. The guy was talking about that was straightforward.
Yeah.
If a guy can figure that
now,
out.
If I get a little confused, he said, if I just get a little confused, it's like, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, Team Ropers, just a quick note. My 2026 clinic schedule is available now at charlycrawford.training. You can find all up-and-coming dates and locations listed under the Clinics tab. If you'd like more information or want to apply to host, the host form is available on the website under the Clinics tab as well. Again, that's charlycrawford.training for the full clinic schedule and hosting information. For any questions, email me at charlycrawfordtraining@gmail.com.
When we talk about your clinics and things like that, is love to be able to talk a little bit about where we can find you, because people enjoy coming and listening to you. That's why I was so excited about this podcast, your ability to be able to teach and your entertainment, and there's gonna be so many people wanting to find out where you're headed if they're coming to your town next. How do we find out?
On Facebook, you can look me up on Facebook, and my schedule's on there. I stopped doing the clinics for a while. I stopped doing them. I really enjoyed teaching people how to rope. I really do. And if somebody was to want to come to a clinic, and say, hey, listen, I have a desire to rope, but I can't afford to come. Could I come for free? Yeah, you could. Absolutely. I really believe that. I do. I've done it. I rebridle horses at clinics, and I tell people, and when I show them what a different bridle would do on a horse, and if they make 3 runs and they don't like it, I try a different bridle. If they don't like it, I put another one on 3 runs. Anyway, and I've told people at the end of the clinic, if you can't afford it, I'll give it to you. But you got to be honest. You got to be honest. I'm going to take my reins off. You don't get my reins, right? But yeah, I'll give it to you. So I have really enjoyed teaching people how to rope, but I got burnt out because it seemed like that I would get a hateful email, and for some reason, I don't know why this is. If 19 people after a clinic are wanting to name a child after me, and one guy sends me a crummy email, it bothers me. And I don't know why. If 11 hateful emails and 9 good ones, I mean, but one out of 20 would get me. And if I would have just done it for the money, that wouldn't have bothered me. Got your money anyway, it didn't matter. But that's not why I did it. I actually tried to make you better. I tried, But and I tell people, when I catch I've spent my life roping against the very best people in the world. So when I catch my horse in the morning and I'm leading her to the tack room, on the way to the tack room, I think to myself, where is the weakness in this horse? What is the thing that I need to improve to give myself the very best chance to win? Right? That's how I think. So when you ride up to me at a clinic and say, see this horse? Yeah. Raised this horse. Yeah. Owned his mother and father. And I just love him. What do you think about him? I love him too. Who doesn't know the answer to that question? Right? I know what I'm supposed to say, but instead I say, he won't score. He won't rate. You can't put a dally and follow the steer. He won't steer stop. He lunges when he pulls. He faces terrible. And then he jumps up and down like a rabbit on the way to the catchment. I hate him. I hate your horse. And you send me an email. Right?
You asked.
You asked me, and I graded him like a car. It's not an opinion. I graded him like a car, like I would my horse. So I got burnout about it. I got people would send me hateful stuff, and it hurt my feelings. And I thought, you know what? I don't have to do it anymore.
Need some time.
I do. Anyway, I started doing it again. I just had a big clinic in Lehigh, Utah, Eagle Mountain, Utah. Great clinic, and really, really was good. And I like the people. I like people. Mm-hmm. I like teaching people how to rope. So.
What about your rodeo? I see your schedule's coming up too. Where you're going to some rodeos, and then who are you roping with?
I did. I'm going to rope with Dan Green in California. I was going to rope with Zach Kilgus in Florida, and I hurt my arm. And I've never been hurt. But it was 0 degrees, and I slipped. My feet went out from under me. I landed on my back on the step, and then I bounced down the step like a cartoon character all the way down. I mean, it hurt.
Got sore.
Oh, it hurt my back bad. And then when I fell down, I threw my arms back, and then my rotator cuff, and then I went down and had an MRI, and the guy told me, man, there's arthritis in your arm. Yeah, I've been doing this. I've been doing that since I've been 8 years old. I've been breaking it over on the outside of the right horn since I've been a little kid. Yeah, there's going to be some arthritis. But anyway, and there's a bone spur. But anyway, it's doing much better. Good. I can move it around. And so I was entered at the BFI. I drew out of the BFI, which was hard for me. But I need more time to be ready when I get to California. Yeah. And it's still sore, but I mean, it's much better than it was.
What about the person that's trying to learn business, the person that's trying to learn how to create such, a winning mentality? Like the things that I think about you is, your business in the industry and your attitude with the positive, just always having that great attitude. What are some books that maybe you have read or some movies that you have watched that can encourage people to try to learn how to create that personality?
Well, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill was a wonderful book for me. But I tell you something that changed my life. That H.E. Lamance that got me started to put on roping schools. He told me he had a gift for me one time. He said, I have a present for you. And I'm going to give it to you tomorrow morning before you leave. Well, I mean, a present from a multimillionaire? I mean, I can't wait. Is it boots? Is it a hat? Yeah, what is it? I mean, something's gonna be great, right? So the next morning, he gave me a binder, and a binder was full of cassette tapes. And this was a long time when I had my black truck. I did have a cassette player in there, and it was a binder of cassettes. And you open it up, and it was called "Lead the Field" by Earl Nightingale. It was called "Lead the Field," and I was just crushed. I was so disappointed, and I put him under my seat, and I never listened to him. I didn't listen to him, but I had to drive from El Paso to San Antonio one time, and that is just an awful. I mean, if you have your worst enemy, you want to torture them, have them drive from El Paso to San Antonio. I mean, there's one little turn out there, but other than that, that's about it. It's miserable. and I'm alone, so I'm out there and I get those tapes out and I plug the first one in, and it sounded like he was talking about me. It was the reason that people fail. I mean, it was just like, it was unbelievable. Lead the Field by Earl Nightingale. And I think there was 8 cassettes in there, front and back. And it was amazing. And that really did change my life. And I mean, there are different speakers, motivate people. Ziegler was a great guy, but Earl Nightingale was the guy that helped me a lot. And I like that. The inner game of tennis was interesting to me, but I'm more of a fundamentalist than I do just take a deep breath and let it happen. You know what I mean? I asked Roy Cooper one time, I said, what do you focus on, when you back in the box? And he said, I just look at the calf's neck and take a deep breath and nod my head. Well, when I back in the box and I take a deep breath, I'll hear the announcer. Or I'll see some guy in the stands. I mean, that doesn't work for me. I have to have, like in golf, they call it a swing thought. I have to have something that not 14 things, but I've got to have one thing that I'm really focused on that keeps me focused on the job.
Engaged.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, Walter, I appreciate it, partner.
Thank you.
Always great to see you, but man, I enjoyed the conversation. It was so much fun, so much wisdom, and so many things that you've accomplished. And just the drive to go from, where you were at in the 70s to the clinics to motivational speaking and, your business, and then back to rodeo and back to showing all these Thundercats how to do it, and then still being able to keep doing what you're doing. And I love it, man.
Well, it's an honor to be roping against them. I think it's just fantastic when they, watching them rope and watching the evolution of team rope. And I really enjoyed being a part of it. And I still want to win. I want to win. My son says I'll finally die and they'll stuff me and put me in the Hall of Fame.
What was Patton's?
And a lot of people say this is unhealthy, but I get it. General Patton said that he wanted to be killed from the last bullet, from the last soldier, and the last war, because he said, without war, I have no reason to live. And people say, oh, how unbalanced is your life? I get it. I get it. Why he said that.
I love it.
All right.
That's a great way out right there, man.
All right. Thanks for
Thank you.
Thanks
Appreciate
for having
it.
me. You bet.